Hey guys, I'm back. Mike Robert here. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to like and subscribe. So in today's audio, I want to talk to you guys about how to build $1 million lead gen business by selling phone calls and leads to local businesses. Okay, now don't let the number a million scare you. And by the way, we are talking about a million in revenue. Don't let it scare you because I'm going to give you a quick breakdown before I go over the entire scope of it so that you get a full understanding of the math, okay? So to get to this revenue goal of $1 million annually, you would need to be charging, or you can charge whatever you want, but I'm going to give you a breakdown if you charge $65 per lead. If you charge $65 per lead, then that would mean in a 30-day calendar, you would have to generate at a minimum 42 leads per day for 30 days over a 12-month period. If you did that, you would be roughly at $1 million in revenue. Okay, so 42 leads per day. And for some of you that have never generated a lead before, I want to talk to you about why that's a very simple thing to do, especially using platforms like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Google, and then maybe building, if it's on a local level, building websites that you can rank and such like that. The other aspect of it, though, is not just in sheer volume. And this is the hardest part about it. It's actually in acquisition. So one thing that people make a mistake with is a lot of marketers do this is they work with one client and then they may get a couple through referrals and they get very nervous to put themselves out there, like you might have seen on my channel, maybe making cold calls, maybe running paid ads, and they just kind of get really tight with the clients they have, and they're like, well, I really don't want to go out there and explore anymore. And or the scaling aspect of it can be very challenging because now there's obviously a lot more work you have to do and a lot more things you have to work with. So what are some of those things and how would that look? Well, number one, you have to choose a niche. Okay. And the pro and the con with choosing a niche, especially on the local level, is that sometimes we try to make things, number one, really hard, right? We think that we have to come up with a new way to do something to be effective in lead gen. And the truth of the matter is at the end of the day, if we can provide a phone call or a lead of someone that is interested in our client's product or service and our client has the ability to speak to them, hence generating a lead, we've done our job. Now, obviously, as you follow my channel, that job goes further where we have account management and working with our clients because not every lead is going to be perfect, right? And our job is to mitigate that as much as possible. And that's essentially why you want to choose a niche that you like, okay? I'm not going to name any specific niches because, to be quite frank and honest with you, some of the not so jazzy or cool niches, so to speak, or sexy niches, are probably some of the best niches out there. And reason for that is because you have a lot of demand on the buyer side, right? That's your client. And then you have a lot of demand on the consumer side. Okay, so those are niches that, I've shown a couple on my channel, but it's not really the niches that are really mainstream, right? It's going to be niches that you wouldn't think necessarily about. And sometimes it may take some demographics to understand why some of these niches are very popular and why you can have a lot of success with them. Okay, the next thing is setting up a system. And so you will need to know and educate yourself a little bit when it comes to software. And these are basic things. Some of our colleagues use programs like CallRail, Go High Level, Call Tracking Metrics, Ringba, and many more softwares to just track phone calls. And then Go High Level can also track leads and make a nice professional CRM setting for your clients. Another platform that you're going to also be familiar with is something that is also like Zapier, not Zapier, like Zapier, but Zapier. Zapier is essentially a tool that will allow you to send communication to many of these different channels, which can then automate automation tools as well, which is going to be very helpful. One of the real reasons that businesses have issues with leads is time follow up. So if a lead comes in now, let's say from social media, we want to be able to get that person on the phone right away if possible. But more or less, we also want to be notified that we have a new lead. You don't want to go to your dashboard and have to download leads and then call people, right? You could have missed the opportunity. So automation is going to be important. Software is going to be important. The other aspect is going to be building out landing pages. I would say that's probably one of the most challenging things to learn. So if you want, you can find someone that is more skilled at it, someone that is an expert. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in the aspect where you think a landing page has to look like some of those templates you see online. A lot of that stuff doesn't convert nearly as well as the the kindergarten cookie cutter stuff that I've made. And the reason I phrase it like that is because a lot of the landing pages I've made are some of the most hideous things in the world, but they work. They work really well. So I would say if you want to learn how to make good landing pages, that's a skill in itself, and every industry is different. But I've also tested different landing pages on social media and display traffic where the most attractive things just, I don't know why, they just don't cook. They don't. It's these hideous, weird looking stuff that just keeps pumping leads. I did mention a CRM, so you want to implement a CRM. Now let's talk about selling leads. How do you sell leads? Okay. Now there's two ways, in my opinion, to sell a lead. Number one, you can sell a dream. And I'm the reason I'm making this video is audio is to be very open and candid about you because this is the honest truth. You can sell dreams. Okay. You can sell the idea that you have these quote unquote, let's say Glenn Gary leads, right? Where the best of the best. Or you can sell the reality. The reality is this, and we have a program, okay, that our clients work with, like you guys have heard me say many, many times and times again, that we can provide concrete, solid opportunities, solid leads, appointments to your business. We can't guarantee sales. Now, everybody that you speak to, well, not everybody, but a lot of clients you speak to will all ask questions about guarantees or what if they don't get the customer, what if they don't get the job, or things of that nature, depending on the industry you're working with, of course, right? And the only thing that if you were working with me as a student and what I would recommend you do as you listen to my channel is don't guarantee sales unless you are working on a commission basis with that business. If you're not and you're simply selling them the lead, you have to articulate this and you obviously have to put it in your contracts that at the end of the day, your company cannot be liable for that. And the reason being is because once you hand someone a lead, you have no idea what they do with it. You have no idea what their sales team does or doesn't do with it. And so you don't want to be responsible for that. And this is one of the things where I can have two clients in one city that offer the same service and they're relatively similar businesses in terms of size and some of the demographics, right? Depending on if they're in the contracting space. So overall, there's a lot of similarities. The difference though is why is one business performing, at an 80, 90% close rate and another business performing at a 30% close rate or 40% close rate? What's the difference? Now, some may say, well, he just got the best leads or she got the best leads and he didn't. That's not necessarily true because you can easily do what we call a callback system, and that's basically where you follow with every lead that comes into your system every 30 days until you get a concrete answer if someone took action on this product or service. And that's one of the things where what we do, and we find that a lead did do that. So is it timing? Was it the person just didn't feel right with the person? Those are unknowns. Those are things you can't control, right? So you want to make sure that you build a bridge that is beneficial for you and the client, right? And as an example of that, the client who closes at 90% gets to reap the benefits of those returns, right? And the client who closes at 30% gets to reap those benefits. But if that client at 30% finds out what is affecting their business, they easily can turn that around. And guess what? They can now be at 80 to 90%. And that number can change, right? I've spoken to clients about that where, sales is not linear. A lot of people look at it sales from a linear perspective, but sales is not linear, right? Sales is a roller coaster. You're going to have, the top, you can talk to the top salespeople in the world and they'll tell you the same thing. Sales is not linear. You're going to have really good months. You're going to have okay months, right? But there's going to be times where what you look at your system, you have to know where you are in your cycle. So that means if you're, as an example, and I don't want to go too far off on this topic, but that basically means that if you are buying leads, right, and you're getting leads to come into a system, or rather, if you're selling the lead to a business, account management is important because everything is based on a cycle, right? Let's say a business buys, as an example, let's say one of your clients buys 1,000 leads from you or 2,000 leads from you. We're talking mainly local businesses and sometimes regional, because even when we worked with dealerships, dealerships would buy about 100 to 200 leads a month. So on an annual basis, that's about what, 1,200 to 2,400 leads. Well, at the tall scope of that, right, the big scope, if this business bought 100 leads from us and in an annual year had a 90% close rate, that's, oh my goodness, that's unbelievable, unheard of, right? I don't even know if most local companies, depending on the service they offer, could do that, right? If you really think about the metrics. So when you put that into perspective, what you want to know is how you can help that business, you want to know is how you can help that business grow and understand the numbers. And the truth is, a lot of businesses, especially on the local level, don't really look at things that way. Sometimes it's because they may have limited capital, right, or limited resources, right. So it may not necessarily be the capital, but let's say they have a team that's heavily reliant on them, in the local contracting space specifically, to be compensated. And they're only paid when they work, so they don't want to lose that team. So that's why sometimes they may be a bit erratic with the decisions that they make. But based on the numbers, if you were able to get a business legitimately in a calendar year 1,000 leads, and they only closed 500 of those leads, or even 400, which is, let's say a 40 to 50% conversion rate, you do the math, right? If you do the math on that, and understanding the ticket sizes and things of that nature, assuming that we're in a mid to high ticket business with that doesn't have a ton of overhead, that business is wildly profitable. And so that's why you'll hear me say on many calls that businesses, or even the aspect of businesses that don't really understand numbers, they'll never grasp the concept of leads because they're looking at every single lead. It's really on a bigger picture. And so what you're looking for is consistency. Number one, can we book appointments or whatever your sales cycle is? Number two, do these people have a serious interest in our product or service? Then it's just volume. Then it's just finding legitimate vendors and companies that you can work with that can truly provide you with sheer consistent volume. If they can do that, the sales are going to come, especially in services where there's more of a need over a want or an urgent matter, right? And I can give you an example of that. Look at what happened with Hurricane Helene. It was a very tragic storm, that came through here on the South Florida. Here we got a bit of it, and I mean, in the last, I would say maybe 90 days or so, right? September, right? You know how many clients I have that said, let's go? And they went down there obviously to help people, and they charged their services. But I mean, a ton of clients went, right? It was a major event where the phone could not, you could almost do no wrong and just be in the right space at the right time as a marketer, right? And being able to help the businesses and help consumers get the services they're looking for, right? An unbelievable amount of leads, right? And that's one of the things that, where in your lead gen spaces, you have the ability to, land clients quickly, move into markets really, really quickly. As long as you understand the markets that you're in, you can do very well. So that's the aspect of selling the lead. Selling the lead is simply telling someone, hey, this is what we have. Are you interested? It's not over promising. It's not over delivering. It's none of that. It's not guaranteeing revenue or sales. You can't do that because there are too many unknowns. It's really based on numbers. You get 1,000 leads in a year. Guess what? I mean, how could you get 1,000 legitimate people that you get to meet with and speak with about your product or service, and you don't convert at least half of them into a paying customer, right? And then obviously from there, it's just consistency. The truth of the matter is with this deal in lead gen is consistency, right? You have to have a, and again, hitting 42 leads a day is not hard, especially if you have clients. Think about it. If you have 30 to 40, 50 clients, 60 clients, that's one lead a day, which in many cases, many of your clients will get more than one lead a day, and it could fluctuate. One day this person gets one lead or two lead, next day the other person gets six, seven leads, and it kind of floats around sometimes. But at the end of the day, the numbers show you this is a very simple model to scale, right? It just requires marketing channel or marketing channels, right? In this case, online advertising. You can do offline as well. It's just up to you. You have to figure that part out. So you have to figure out the marketing. You have to figure out how to get the leads to come in, gauge the quality, and that's where I would recommend that you listen to some of the calls that come in for clients. Maybe your team even takes the calls just to kind of manage the quality a little bit, and then see what your costs are, because we're not necessarily talking about the net. We're talking about the gross, of course, right? And then from there, then you have an idea. Okay, this is what's working very well. These are the industries that work really well for us. The next thing I need to do here is just scale it up, and that's mainly onboarding new clients, testing new ads and new creatives consistently. Finding a team is something you also want to consider doing, because eventually the workload will be a lot for you, because now you're managing multiple different campaigns, you're managing multiple different clients, lots of different leads coming in, right? So you're going to have so many leads. You got to think about it, 40, 50, 60 leads, 70 leads in a day coming in. Now you have, what they call, if something could go wrong, it would go wrong, right? So you want to be able to make sure you keep a communication channel available for your clients and for your team. So those, I would say, other things to also consider too is, as I was touching on there, is as you're working on new creatives, students often ask me, why do you have to keep making new creatives? Well, one of the things is ad fatigue. So if you're using social media, ad fatigue is where you can have a winning ad that is crushing it, and all of a sudden it's no longer crushing it. So the aspect of generating 42 leads a day means that you have to be consistent in generating the leads, and you have to have good ads that are going to get your audience's attention and turn into good leads for your clients. Okay. You want to manage cash flow. You want to implement invoices, plans, contracts are very important. And obviously, the most important is client retention. Okay, so when you're dealing with leads, one of the things to keep in mind is that the main reason you don't want to sell dreams or burn bridges with people is because client retention is what keeps you in business, right? Client retention is the people that keep coming back month in and month out, reordering leads again and again and again from you, because you are providing a value to their business. In order to do that, you're going to have customer service, account management, right? Quality control, staying in contact with your clients, and working with them. At the end of the day, these businesses are working with you for a service, so it's important that you work with them and help them in many ways than not, so that they can have the success that they want. Okay, so there you have it. Building a business, a lead gen business to $1 million. It's not just a dream, it's very achievable, right, in revenue. And all you have to do is stay consistent. You don't got to be a scientist, I should say. You don't have to become an internet phenom. You don't have to be famous. This is what I really like about this industry. Is like you don't have to become TikTok star, and it's not that there's anything wrong with that. You don't have to become a content creator. There's nothing wrong with those things. I'm just a super introverted person, and I don't really like to be, as you guys can see, I'm talking behind the camera, right? I don't like to really be all over the internet. It's not something I do, right? I'm not really into that. But people are into it. If you're into it, that's your thing. There's no judgment here. But you don't need to do all those things, right? You don't need to come and master crypto and all this other stuff. And this is not a money pit. It's a very straightforward process, right? It's really simple to understand. You don't got to go out and sell dreams to people. These businesses want leads. There's no mystery there. Okay. I remember when I was working, and how I got my start in all this, like how I got to this point. If you're brand new to my channel, is so I was working in automotive lead gen. So I worked for this company where we sold leads to dealerships. At this point in my career, I was just in sales. No, I wouldn't say just in sales, but I was in sales. Okay. And then I got moved into account management when I understood how to work with the clients. And I learned the business of lead gen. And I saw the big players. Okay. The big players are way beyond what I'm teaching you here. Okay. These are multi-million-dollar brands, many of them doing well over $100 million a year in revenue. And they've been doing it for many, many years. Okay. And so that was, I mean, I said at that point, I said, well, I know how to get clients. I don't know how to generate leads yet, but even if I'm not like a rock star, I still think if I just brought in $1 million of revenue for this business, I could definitely, and that was my book of business. I was bringing in $1 million of revenue for that company. And we were selling leads for like 15 to 20 bucks. So we were selling a lot of leads. Okay. But I'm just saying in my head, if I could do that here, even if I'm wrong, I probably could hit 250, half a million, 300,000, 400, something, right? And I wasn't wrong, right? So this is a perfect business model for the everyday average person. All you need to understand is the industry you service, what value do they have? How can you get them clients, which is obviously through paid ads, and then automations and systems. Start small. You don't got to go out and blast out and try to get a whole bunch of clients. Don't do that because they're going to be small things if you're not familiar with what you're doing, what to learn. But once you learn a lot of those small things, you're going to be able to set yourself up very well. It's a lot easier to scale. You start one client, add another client, test the waters, see how things are working. Because trust me, when you want to put the hammer down, that's getting clients is easy. That's not a problem at all everywhere. But you want to master your system, and then from there, which is not going to take long, just 60, 90 days. You kind of get the hang of things, then start putting the hammer down a little bit more and progress and then grow your business. So, yeah, if you guys have any questions about that, drop it in the comment section below. If you're looking for more one on one, you can book a one on one call with me. And there's a link for that in the description. I'll talk to you guys next time.